Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Hello, you homeschoolers out there. Welcome back to Homeschool Together. Thank you for joining us. If you have a chance, head down into the show notes and find a way to leave us a nice, tasty review. We always enjoy seeing those come across our feed. We read them with a little bit of wine in our inflatable hot tub outside.
Yeah, that's how bougie we are, you guys.
Ariel, with our
inflatable hot tub.
with our silicone wine cups.
I know, which I got during COVID for my company as a Christmas gift. It was like in this whole basket of stuff, and it's like silicone wine glasses. I was like, what are they trying to say about us in the middle of the pandemic?
We enjoy our Kirkland Rioja.
Yeah. So it's funny because the last review we got, somebody said, all right, I'm finally here. You've been asking me to leave this review for 2 years. They'd been listening to our podcast, and they finally left us a review. So thank you. It really warms our hearts.
And how dare you after 700 days?
It makes us feel good. And, when new people look at the show and they want to know if it's like legitimate, they want to look at the most recent reviews. And if we don't have recent reviews, they think that maybe, we're not still cool or something. And we were actually never cool, but we appreciate that you guys might think so. So you could go on iTunes, leave us a review.
The coolest thing ever was we had a whole podcast about the importance of Star Wars and homeschooling, and we didn't realize it, but it did get released on May the 4th. That wasn't even planned.
Oh man, that was so awesome.
Anyway, that's how cool we are.
Check that out. We've got our Gumroad store if you're doing an around the world journey. We have resource guides there. We've got some ways to support us. And so you have lots of ways to get in touch with us. Also, if you have a great idea for the show, we're in 2024 now, and you and I have done a lot of planning about the things that we want to talk about. We have some great guests planned and things for interviews. But if you have a topic that is, you're really interested in and, or things you'd want us to research or guests you want us to talk to, please reach out. You can get a hold of us on Facebook. You can reach us at homeschooltogetherpodcast@gmail.com. So, reach out to us. It's a new year. And we kind of just talk about subjects we're interested in, but we want to talk about what you all are interested in. So let us know.
Yeah. Like Bain, from the people. We want to hear from the people.
It's survey time, right? It's funny. Our parent partnership just sent out the survey of what classes are we interested in for next year. Oh, yeah. So I feel like it's that time of year where we're all planning what's coming up, and if there's something on your mind, let us know. I'm interested in
some classes taught by Matthew Boozer. Yeah. So we did a nice little kind of a roundup. We always like to do this at the beginning of the year. Last week, talking about our homeschool year plan. We'd like to talk about what our goals are for curriculum. What are the things we're shooting for? It's kind of a window into what we're doing. I know we talk about what we're doing, but that's kind of like the centerpiece episode where we just kind of like brainstorm about what's coming up. Yeah. And off of that episode, we kind of got into a little of a discussion about like resolutions and things we want to improve.
Yeah, like we were talking about all this curriculum we were going to do and what our plan was for the year. And we were like, man, there's all these other parts of this of like what we want to do differently and like our own goals and things we want to change. So I don't know. We're starting our 2024 resolutions. I'm naming it that because I'm thinking maybe we will have resolutions next year. You know how resolutions are. It's always a thing like
some of them hope to do.
Yeah. Some of them come true. Some of them come partially true. Some of them don't happen at all. They're aspirational though. And it's funny. I work with a guy in the theater, and he's always like, I love aspirational ideas. Mm-hmm. It's like they won't all get implemented, but it gets us thinking in the right direction. And even if we make some progress there, it's better than having just a totally achievable idea. I'm usually very much about achievable things. I don't want to give myself unrealistic goals, but this is like the one time a year when it's like, let's dream about it. Let's see what we could do.
Yeah, I always like the term entitlement. It's like the best case scenario thing I could be entitled if I were able to be the controller of my life. What would that thing be? Right. So we've come up with a few ideas, and we'll go ahead and go through those right now. That basically these are essentially resolutions or things that we want to improve. And one of the things that we see that as we homeschool, we've done this a number of years now, and we're iterating on trying to improve and whatnot, and thinking about how we can improve things. I think the first thing that we've talked about is more field trips. That's
Yeah.
getting out and doing things is something that I think we lack a lot. And obviously coming out of the pandemic, we're kind of refiguring what to do.
And some things are just now available that weren't available even last year in programs and stuff.
I've acutely felt this in the last like 2 or 3 months now that we've gone into the rainy season. And heaven forbid, we're now in the cold season. I don't know what this is.
It's so weird for us.
It's 10 degrees outside. It's freezing here in Seattle.
we don't cope with that super well. We're great with rain.
Everyone's
really good with rain. Ice, not so much.
Yeah, the screaming and tears that we've been hearing outside is all of our heat pumps are struggling at this.
Absolutely true.
So the first thing we want to do is like getting out. So it's not just the McDonald's play area, Matthew, and it's not just the jumpy house.
Yeah, we've got one of those inflatable bounce houses here.
And it's not the reptile museum, which I think is pretty cool.
The reptile museum is actually really cool,
especially when they bring the tortoise garden out and they throw
in the summer.
Yeah, in the summer, it's very cool. But there's got to be things we got to be able to do with our kids. We're homeschoolers. We're home during the day. 98% of the kids are in schools. This has got to be a prime opportunity to be able to do something.
Well, our youngest dropped her nap this year. So,
yes.
Last year we weren't, halfway through last year, still we weren't able to really do anything in the afternoon.
Ladies, get your Stanley mugs out and pour a little out for Matt.
I just don't get the Stanley mug thing. So anyway, we weren't able to really do anything out in the afternoon or take like all day field trips really because she was still napping and we wanted to respect the sacred nap. But now that that's gone, and now that our youngest is a little bit older, she's 4.5 now, and she's kind of more amenable to going out and doing things, I think this is a really good goal for us to try to find. And I really want to find some like off the beaten path things that I might not have known about. And, not just the standard like kids activities in Seattle, but like trying to find some kind of cool things. Like there's a local animal shelter that does special days. We're going to go with the Scouts, but they can do, they do homeschool days and things like that where you get to go and you get to learn about taking care of the animals and you get this whole experience and you do a service project to help the habitats. Like there's all kinds of opportunities. I just need to to go out and just be more inquisitive, ask more questions, and really do more research and get into it.
Well, and it's something that you've also brought up. It doesn't have to be the Children's Museum down the road or the Tree Museum or the Butterfly Museum. A lot of these things could be volunteer efforts like what you were talking about there. One of the big things we did last year, I think it was very inspiring, and I think it was kind of a change in the way we thought about things as we started to do some kind of philanthropy volunteer work where we went and harvested corn for the food bank on a farm here locally as part of the Scouts, and I think that's something that really like we saw that to be a really enriching moment for our children, and like trying to think about what other opportunities there might be, like at the food bank or something of that nature. These outings and these field trips don't have to necessarily be purely, okay, we're going to learn about reptiles today, we're going to do this type of thing. Helping other people in our community, understanding our local community and some of the struggles in our local community, I think is also enriching, and it's also educational. And I think it's also, enriching to our young kids, especially as they're growing up and starting to be, empathetic thinking little ladies. To be able to be empathetic to other people is maybe something, a route that we can go as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is our first kind of resolution, get out more and more field trips. And our second one is to add more physical activity into our homeschool schedule.
But not just for us. We've talked about our physical activity.
No, it's not for us. This is physical activity for our kiddos, because we have our parent partnership that we're busy with. We have our activities we're busy with. We have lots to do at home with the curriculums that we're doing. And we have our own schedules and things, but really being intentional about getting kind of more PE time for our kids. In the summer, it's easier. We can get out and walk and things, but we have to, I think, make more time for it. We went to our daughter's pediatrician, our older daughter, a few months back, and she was like, is she getting 60 minutes of physical activity every day? And I was like, I was like, I don't know. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I wonder if she was in regular school. Could we say this? I don't know that we could, because they have recess, but I don't even think the recess and lunch together with the time, I don't think that totals 60 minutes.
Well, especially, here in the winter season for us, it can be challenging,
Right. And so we were like, okay, how can we get her more our youngest kind of doesn't walk anywhere. She runs everywhere. So we're not super worried about our youngest, but our older daughter, she really likes to, sit and do audiobooks and things like that. And how can we encourage her to have some more physical hobbies and things? We got a pickleball set for Christmas, which was really, really fun. And she actually loved it.
She really did.
She really did. So we've been making time as a family to go and play pickleball. There's a court not far from us. And so we can go and play. So we've been trying to do that. We've also been adding PE into our homeschool schedule.
Yes.
So we have a treadmill and we have an elliptical. We have some light weights and things, and we're just doing a little bit of things with her that she can, walk and listen to her audiobooks and do the things that she really loves while getting to stretch her legs on days when it's like super rainy or super cold outside.
Yeah, it's one of the things that, she has all these hobbies that she's been doing. And one of the things with hobbies or, interests that she has is that you have to practice these things. And,
right.
You can't just go to your class once a week, to your violin class or, play basketball once or twice a week and think you're going to get better just doing it once, right? For an hour.
Yeah.
And that's not enough. And so I've begun to fold those things into our homeschool on a daily basis. I think we have violin, we have basketball. Right now it's basketball season.
Right. So you cleared out a space in the garage. We set up a hoop there and we set up some dribble drills and stuff. So both of our girls actually are able to practice their basketball in the garage. They can put on their rollerblades in the garage. You've got the garage just is in a really great space because we're trying to acknowledge that outside is not always going to be conducive all the time. Yeah. Sometimes it's just, we go out in the rain. It's not like we don't, but sometimes it is just miserable.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't want to go out in a drizzle at 42 degrees. Like you just don't want to.
Right. And I know that there's like, hey, if we can get the proper gear for that. And I think there's some folks who are just totally geared to, in our very first year of podcasting, we interviewed this gal who lived in Alaska with her family. And she was all about just, you got to get the right gear. And her family was out all the time in the snow, every day and everything. And I was just like, I think that that's awesome. I just think that's so aspirational, but maybe that's just too far for us. Like we're definitely not going out in the pouring rain in 8 degrees. It's just not our jam. It's not who we are. Even with good boots and stuff. I think there's those families that can do that and they love to be outside in any weather. But we maybe don't have that much wherewithal.
Well, and I've also put together...
So we need to have contingency plans.
Well, I've also put together a little workout routine for our daughter to do every day. It takes about, 20 minutes maybe at the most. Just a little, light bands, some body weight exercises, things of that nature.
We talked about, you've done a lot of research with this about things that she can do exercise-wise that will help her to not be injured in the sports that she wants to play.
Yep.
Because injury is such a huge potential. So we're doing things that will strengthen certain muscles or give her more flexibility and hopefully help her to not get injured. That would be the worst.
Yeah, that would be the worst. Really, where the injuries, for me and where I've seen injuries come in, obviously there are children who will fall and break an arm when they're young and stuff like that. And that happens. There's some kids who are predisposed to having, shoulders or hips pop out and things like that. Totally understandable. But a vast majority of those injuries in sports kind of start to happen sort of in that middle school levels where the physicality begins to increase. And so if you can get a little bit of a base level of, coordination. She's also very large and she's got a little bit of coordination thing going on.
Yeah. She's large. I wonder where she gets that from.
Yeah, I know. But she's trying to learn her body, right? And so I'm trying to give her some activities, body weight exercises, squats, push-ups, things of that nature that are very, very light on the body, but just for her to kind of learn her body size and mass and be able to just be more comfortable in moving with her, body and not be so awkward. I have basketball practice as well. So things of running and sprinting. She has big feet. She has long legs. It's like she's just trying to learn who she is as she keeps growing. And so I'm giving her some things to do there. She's large enough to be able to use our elliptical machine. So I give her a few minutes on that. And I do this all monitored.
Well, yeah. And it's not like Booza boot camp. No, she's out for, you're in the garage with her and she only does each thing. She does 5 push-ups or something. She does it's very little. And then she does her dribble drills. She she works up a good sweat, and she is so proud of herself.
She's proud of herself.
She's so into it. She goes, Mommy, today in my workout, I did this dribble drill and I did this. And she feels really great. And we've noticed that she's sleeping better since she started this, because and she's not like really drug out, but it's just when it's time to go to bed, I think,
she goes right to bed.
She's used up her battery, right? She's done the physical activity. And when it's like, today it's icy outside, like, what are we going to do?
I'm not going to do anything.
We have to do stuff in our garage or in our house. And we've done the days of setting up the obstacle course throughout our house and having our kids do the obstacle course, but we've moved a little past that. So this is a resolution for this year, and we've started it here in January, but I'm hoping we can continue it.
It's been really, really successful so far, and I've seen some payoff on the basketball side of it as well. So definitely a lot of.
She's gaining confidence in using her body. I think that's a good way to put it.
Well, and that's the other thing. That's the other thing too, is when she is engaging in sports and physical activity with other kids, being able to be successful in that. Feeling like you have enough endurance, feeling that you have the strength, and you have the coordination, you've practiced the sport, whatever it might be. And feel like you've had some success is a positive, building experience. And so that's something that I really like. And I'm starting to see that. Today was our first game. We did really well. She did really well. And I was really happy for that, because she's put in that work leading up to that.
Excited.
She was. So going beyond that is one of the things that we've talked with some homeschooling journeys episodes that we've done some interviews, people talking about this idea of personal responsibility and some initiative, and children doing their homeschool work on their own, and independent learners.
The goal is to build there, right?
We're transitioning now slowly up that hill towards Independenceville, where hopefully our kids learn how to, pay their bills and live and make meals and do their
we have some
whatever.
friends.
Yeah.
We have some friends who have a high schooler now, and he is very independent in his learning.
Yep.
And I've been talking with her about this being just a really gradual journey that they started on, about him understanding the things he'd signed up for, taking responsibility for those things, and them guiding and helping, but kind of just building on it every year. And so that's why we introduced the kanban board at the end of last year for our older daughter, and just giving her a sense of, these are the things that are on your plate today, and you can be in charge of how you manage your time, giving her a little bit of freedom to say, like, okay, I'm going to do this first. I'm going to do the math first. And it's funny, she will take sometimes the hardest thing and do it first.
Smart.
She was saying to me the other morning, hey, Mom, if I wake up in the morning and I read for 20 minutes to my sister, does that count as my reading for the day? And I'm like, absolutely it does. And she was like, oh, so she was like, okay, so she's starting to figure it out. And I think one of our real goals this year is to try to start fostering that, sense of responsibility and time management. It's very basic. Her list of Kanban items is like 6 items. It's not very much, but
also having an understanding of what do you need to accomplish? Like what are those things? And for so many years, she would just sit down at the table and go, okay, what am I doing, Dad? And then Daddy would then do all the things.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's she can look at the board and say, okay, those are the things I have to do. And every day it's different, because that night, like the night before, I will sit there and go, okay, tomorrow she has basketball practice, so I'm not putting basketball on there. She's going to have like over an hour plus playing with the kids. I'm going to take the workout off the board. We have plenty of reading math work we did yesterday, so she's not going to do any math. So she gets to the board and says, oh, I only have these 5 things I have to do today.
Right. And we've told her this is gating your free time.
Yeah.
So the more free time that you want, and there's been some days where she's really procrastinated her work. We've been talking a lot about procrastination lately, and she's been like avoiding. And then her sister wants to go and play Lego, and she's like, yeah. And I'm like, hey,
sorry, kid,
you haven't done the things yet for your board.
This really hit home the other day. Remember when she had a play date?
Oh, she was so upset.
Was that on Friday?
Yeah, that was on a Friday.
So normally we finish at like noon, and she was going to go directly to her friend's house for an afternoon play date. And we were like, I'm sorry, you can't go. You haven't finished your dishes. You haven't done your math and reading.
She hadn't done. Yeah, she'd been at the parent partnership for a couple of hours.
I had given her stuff to do, and
because she had like a couple free periods, she had
a free hour that she has to do work, and there was a responsible parent that she was with in the library. And I said, hey, all of your stuff is in your bag. I've put together all these things. None of it needs me. You can do it all yourself. I want you to do it. And so I was texting with my friend, and that's the responsible parent. I'm like, is she doing her work? She goes, she's playing. And I was like, I wanted to text and say, can you please tell her to do her work? But I'm like, no, she needs to feel
Yeah.
the consequences for
Right.
not
And
doing her work.
And
yeah.
before she left in the morning, I said, "Hey, remember your one chore is to empty the dishwasher." And she's like, "Oh yeah. I'll do it later." And I'm like, "Okay, just know that you can't go on your play date." So it's funny. She gets home. She had done none of her work. She had not done the dishwasher. She had not done these things. And she had to slog through all that work. And it was like her play date was delayed by like an hour and a half.
Her friend is like, it was like sitting at the window waiting longingly for her to
We told her, we were like, I kept texting her mom going, it's going to be another half hour. Because not only did she have to do this work, but then she got really upset that she had not done the work earlier.
She was upset at herself.
So she learned a big lesson. And man, that like really changed and that's when I think 2 days later, she's like, if I do my reading in the morning, I'm like, yeah. And so I'll start telling her things like, hey, I'm turning on the dishwasher tonight. So in the morning, it will be ready whenever you want to do it tomorrow. It just has to be done before dinner. And she's like, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, she understands now. And so I think it's very small things that we ask for help with. But it's really made a big difference in our workload for a couple of these things, and for her to take that responsibility that she knows, hey, reading time's got to get in, math's got to get in, and we're trying to gently guide her, because that's your whole life is like that. You've got to plan and prioritize, and
I think the Kanban board has been very helpful, being that kind of that visual tool to start that discussion and start the the discussion around what do I have to do, what do I have to accomplish, how do I prioritize those things? How much procrastination can I allow in my day to still get the things I want at the end of the day? So, yeah, she's having to do that.
She's learned a ton in the last couple months.
Yeah, she's having to do that internal calculus in order to find out, okay, I have responsibilities. I'm not, a little baby kid who can just play all day long. There's been a bunch of times where I go and pick up younger sister from preschool, and my older daughter looks at it longingly and goes, I wish I could be in a preschool. I'm like, yeah, but if you were in preschool, you couldn't do sleepovers. You couldn't go on cruises with Nana and Papa. You couldn't do this
you
and
couldn't
this.
Go to camp.
Couldn't go to camp.
Things.
And she goes, oh.
Yeah.
She's starting to understand that, like, oh, because I'm older, I have more responsibility.
With great power comes great
responsibility. Good job, Peter Parker. I think that has been a good thing. I think we're going to continue that. We're going to see how much further we can get with that, and see what type of growth we can cultivate over the time this year.
Hoping we can continue to help foster that this year through Kanban or whatever method.
Another one that we have here on our list is the idea of more thoughtful conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're doing our math, we're doing our reading, we're doing our ancient civilizations, but a lot of times the ancient civilizations, like, we're reading, we're quickly doing a bunch of projects, we're doing things.
This person did this, and this person did this, and it's a lot of the what's.
Yeah.
And our daughter now at 8.5 it's funny. Like, I feel like that's so young, but at the same time, she has a lot of thoughts and feelings about things, and so we're. One of our resolutions for this year is just to try to talk with her more about the why, and not just the what, trying to connect it, trying to get her thoughts. Why do you think so-and-so would have done this? How do you feel about it? What are other options? What are, just trying to kind of engage in more discussion, because what we're realizing is she has a lot of feelings about the things that she's learning and that we're reading and things. And, sometimes we're so focused on, like, okay, let's get through this next chapter, whatever, that we're not having that kind of thoughtful discussion. Yeah,
that's always it's something I'm starting to realize, almost as a critique on myself, is I need to start thinking about bigger picture and thinking about the more nuance of what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, I don't know if you guys experience the same thing listening. Maybe put some comments in the YouTube below, or leave us a message on a Facebook group. But I sometimes feel like when I'm doing the homeschooling, I'm just a big giant to-do lister, and I'm just like, okay, I got to do this, then I got to do this, then I got to do this, and the minute I finish the reading, I'm like, all right, we're moving on to the next thing, and okay, we're got to do this next thing, because Emily's got this next item in the build your library thing, and I've got to go get that knocked off, and okay, time to do your copy work. It's like there's not a lot of time to do. I sometimes miss the time of asking her what she thought about that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, this giant battle in the middle of northern Iraq? where Alexander beats Darius, at Gaugamela, right?
What do you think that must have looked like?
Yeah, it's like or we studied the Battle of Issus and everything. Like, could you imagine staring at 40,000 men across a river and they all want to throw spears and shoot arrows at you? It's like, how scary is that?
Yeah.
All that type of stuff. So right now we're studying Alexander. So,
Yeah.
but I sometimes maybe miss those opportunities where ask her what she thinks about these things, and I think that's something where I want to be able to pull more out of her, because she I forget that she's 8 years old. She's gonna be about 8.5 now, and she's a deep thinker. She has a lot of ideas and thoughts and stuff, and I want to be able to hear those things. I want to be able to hear those things. I want to be able to pull those things out from her, and I want her to work through things herself and like think out loud. A lot of times there's a lot of people online who they do a lot of like thinking out loud, and they do it in real time and stuff like that, and it's fun to watch people do their thinking. They go down a track and go, oh no, that's the wrong way to think about that. Okay, you pull back, and then you go down a different path, and I do like to see her in with the way she thinks. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? There was this one game I used to play with her. It was kind of like an engineering problem where I said, okay, I'm stuck up in the room and I have broken my leg. Make me a robot that will help me and also make me dinner and everything. And so she started coming up with these elaborate things of like these walking ovens that would come up with giant arms, and they were so impractical, but they were fun to see her brain kind of churn and do things like that. And I think this year I want to do a lot more, talking to her and trying to
do some thought experiments.
And see what she's thinking and what is she imagining. Because you do have those moments. I think this week when we were doing we were at the parent partnership when we were studying the Battle of Issus, where Alexander chases off Darius for the first time. I said, how would you have done the battle? She goes, oh, I would have put my archers here and my slingers here and my caravans here and all this type of stuff. And I was like, oh, cool. I don't know if that would have been successful, but that sounds really cool. And, that type of stuff.
It's cool to see like what she's taken in. And even with the books that she's reading or listening to, or the books we read to her, that, the story books and things, to get her feelings about, what the characters did or what they're going through. She has lots of thoughts. And
remember she came up to you this week, she's reading, we read Percy Jackson. We were watching the new show on Disney. Very good.
Yeah.
She's also now like 2 or 3 episodes deep.
Yeah, she's in the third book
of Percy Jackson on audio now. So it's like she's left us behind. Remember, she came to you and she said, Mommy, is the center of the gods in the Western...
Yeah, do you really think that the center of Western civilization is in the United States? And I'm like, that's a deep... why? What? And she was like, because that's where Mount Olympus is. And I said, well, okay, but this is mythology. And she's like, are you really sure? And because I think the books are written in such a way that they really speak to kids, and so she really feels like this is real. And
she really looked at you and she goes, I really want this to be real.
I was like, no, honey, there's no Minotaur, like
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I was like, that would be really neat, but this is mythology. And so she was like, oh, and then we had to kind of talk about how she felt about that, because she was
a little bummed.
She was bummed. I remember it was the same way when she found out that the world of Harry Potter was not real. And I was like, I think last year she was really upset about that. It was like, I could see it kind of killed some of the magic for her, that, it wasn't really real. It was like, well, but it's cool to live in that world for a little bit while we listen to it, while we read it. Right. Yeah. And so I think she's kind of getting that, but yeah, so engaging her more about her thoughts, I think that's a good resolution to have. From my perspective, I would really like to be more engaged this year with our homeschool. We've kind of joked that I do the planning and you do the execution. But now that our girls are getting older, I really want to carve out some time. I mean,
I got a lot of chapter books if you want to read them.
I know. Well, so that's, chapter books is what usually ends up falling to me, right?
No, I have now picked up a lot of chapter books.
Right.
I'm reading some serious chapter books. It's helping me, pump up my numbers in my books per year.
So yeah. And, I think the problem for me is that chapter books are an easy thing. It's like, okay, cool, I can read that at night. But now our younger daughter wants me to read to her too. So trying to get through chapter books is really inconsistent, because every other night is the only night I can read to our older daughter. So I'd like
still working through Potter, right?
Oh my gosh, it's taken a long time to work through Order of the Phoenix. So yeah, like I'd love to I'd love to start engaging with other parts of homeschool with them, whether that's an art project or something for science or an activity or a field trip or something. I'd like to find ways to engage beyond just mom can read this chapter book, because I've fallen down on the job on that one a few times now, having to go back and forth until we're at the point where I can read to both kids together. But yeah, I'd like to just take a little bit more active role if I can and carve out some time. That's something I feel like sometimes I miss out a little bit.
Mr. Matt Daddy Bear would be happy to hand you over some stuff. Yeah, I'd be happy to give you things.
Right. Well, now that we really have two children, now that our 4-year-old is really starting to get into wanting to work on curriculum and things, it's like, okay, you need the help too. And I want to get the chance to, get to teach her. And anyway, that's just my own personal thing. Sometimes I feel like I'm hearing a lot about the homeschool and I'm doing all the planning and I'm really involved with that piece. And we talk about it a lot, but I don't get in the trenches very much. I feel more like, the coach and not the player. And sometimes I want to play.
All right. Got a player coach. Come on in.
Yeah.
Put me in, coach.
Yeah. I want to play a little bit more.
All right. So. No. I'll welcome you in. Another one that we are thinking about doing a lot more. We did the Blossom and Root prehistory last year, and we
was really cool.
We obviously that is science, and so we treated that as science. But this year we're thinking about, we want to do some more science because we don't really have anything really concrete lined up for us to do.
Yeah, we wanted to do Blossom and Roots year 1 science, which I bought, and it looks great. Wonders of the Earth and Sky. It looks awesome. But we're just not finding the time with all the other things we have going on. We might take a look at it in the summer, but we were talking more about, we'd just love to get our girls some more like hands-on science, some more like hands-on experiments and natural world observation stuff. So yeah, that's something that ends up going by the wayside a lot.
Yep. If you guys have any comments or ideas around that, feel free to comment on those. That's something really good. I'm not really into like, hey, let's do all these fun little experiments. I'd rather have something that is thoughtfully put together, that can drive home concepts that feed into a larger theme. I think that is the best, so that they can have some type of tranche of understanding of science and going through the process. But it's not just like random ad hoc experiments that kind of jump around. I know that's kind of fun, but because bubbling volcanoes and then pH experiments here, but it's like, I would love for them, like what you had said, like the Earth and science, the atmosphere and Earth stuff. I mean, that would be a good thing for them to do, but maybe they're not going to be as interested in that. I'm just trying to kick around ideas on like, am I going to have to go down the road of DIYing it, or is there something out there that I can do?
Yeah, we looked at building foundations for scientific understanding, and that was and what's the one that they made?
There was the homeschool one that they did.
Yeah, so we just haven't found anything that really clicked with us. I think there's got to be some mix, right? You need to have some amount of like practical, hands-on experiments and some things that might be a little flashy and things, just to like keep that interest up and say, hey, maybe we're doing the early building blocks, but science is really cool and science can do really cool things. And I think you gotta like show that sometimes, but we also want to build a good foundation, like you're saying. So
that's it.
I don't know.
I'm just going to jump into chemistry. That's it. We're going right to the periodic table.
If we can find some time, I really do want to try the Blossom and Root. If we don't do it now, we'll do it certainly when we loop back around and do grade 1 again. But yeah, science is something that we've struggled to find time for, and and the right avenue to teach it and things. And part of it too was that our younger daughter was so young that she was really in the like being dangerous phase for a while, and we're like coming out of that at 4.5 now. She's getting to be a little bit less dangerous, so we could maybe do some experiments and things.
Yeah, I think I'm going to toy with a lot of it this summer when I have a little bit more time and I can kind of tease it out, because as we said in last week's episode, we're going to be ramping up our 4-year-old. She's going to be 5 this summer. Into her kind of the kindergarten level curriculums, Right Start Math, all about reading, starting to do the Round the World curriculum.
Yeah, she is like so excited.
We're starting to get geared up, and that's going to be like, I got 2, brain engines I got to keep feeding now. It's like I got 2 locomotives I got to shovel coal into. And so I've got to figure out how to manage that. And then, is there a way I can do science around the two of them. So
and with together.
Yeah, maybe
keep
try to do it
together.
together. And I'm going to kick around and see what type of ideas I can do around that, and maybe we'll share with that later. Or if you guys have comments, feel free to put them down below. And then the last one for me is managing my time a little bit more. I feel a little bit, what's Bilbo's line? I feel like too little butter spread over too much bread. Yeah. So like, I feel like I want to, manage my time a little bit better. I think that's going to require me to be a little bit more disciplined. Not looking at my phone as much. One of the big changes that I made in the last year and a half was I moved all of my reading, physical reading, to the audio form. So it allows me to still accomplish all the books that I want to read, but I do it in an audio form. It allows me to go faster. I can chunk it up a little bit easier. I can, read my books when I normally couldn't sit down and read a book. That saved me a lot of time, gave me more time to do some more homeschooling, more stuff like that. But I'm talking about more of my own personal time, like goals and projects that I have myself, or projects and hobbies that I'm working on. I think I want to try and figure out a way to do that. Obviously I have my fitness stuff, my working out, and all that stuff's important to me. But I think some of my hobbies got left behind last year. And
I think some of them kind of, I think, you need to fill those, and I'm pushing you too to, keep up with the things that are important to you. But that there have been plenty of times where that's impinging upon our homeschool because we didn't plan our time well. And I have the same problem, right? So I think it's that discipline of, getting up at a consistent time, which means going to bed at a consistent time. Having a solid plan for the day that involves, hey, let's get all of our work done here so that the kids can have free time, and then you can have free time to do your things too. Whereas, hey, we got a little bit of a late start this morning, didn't get up, didn't do my workout. So now I'm going to have the kids do some, some cartoons for a half hour so that I can have time to do this thing. And then, I didn't prep for breakfast. Okay, I got to get this. Okay, another half hour goes by, and then you lose that whole morning, which is that key. For our daughters, it's really a key time for them, learning in the morning.
I agree.
And so, that can make the rest of the day really squirrely. And I've noticed it too. I've started to get up in the morning and do my workout in the morning. It's really helped me be more present and be able to focus more with them when I'm home.
You don't feel like, I've got to get out there, can you give me some time, or you do that type of stuff. It's already done. You finished your work. You can enjoy your time doing X, Y, or Z later.
Well, and I feel like too, you do it, I do it. We're both totally guilty of it, of the kind of like, I'm taking time for myself right now, but not in a I have a hobby or something. It's more like I need my own downtime. And I think that feeling of frazzledness comes from times when we weren't as prepared.
Yeah.
When we were prepared, we had a game plan and we went in and we did that, and it all went really well. It's the days when it's like, we didn't take things out, we didn't get up on time, all that stuff happens, that it just unravels our whole day.
You pay the price for it.
Well, right. And then we end up having to just be like, I need half an hour because the kids are driving me crazy right now. Yeah. And it's like,
there's a cost. You have to pay it sooner or later.
Right. So we even end up taking more time out of our day to, we end up procrastinating bits of homeschool and different things because, maybe the kids were a little crazy because we didn't have our own act together. We didn't feed them on time. And so they got hangry. It kind of snowballs on us. So time management.
Yeah, we see that a lot of times, like going to bed at the right time, putting them to bed at the right time.
Oh, that's so key.
And like doing it all just kind of feeds in on itself. And if you don't do the right things at the beginning of the day, then you don't do the right things at the end of the day. It all begins to kind of compress like an accordion. And then, you pay for it. And, when things start to break or you start to break. And so I'm trying to think about, what can I do to balance my time a little bit better and maybe hopefully improve the experience throughout the year.
Build some consistent routines, I think, is what we're really trying to do.
Yeah. I think finding the time to do the things I want to do so that I feel fulfilled makes my enjoyment during the day and managing all the things I have to manage and do more enjoyable. So I think they feed on itself.
Yeah. When you've gotten up, you've had a good breakfast, you've had your workout, you've done the things you needed to do before the kids are up and moving, you can approach homeschool without this kind of weight. Like,
exactly.
I have things I need to do.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel
if I've knocked off a good portion of the things I got to do in the day before the day has begun. It makes things a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So we hope these, us thinking about our resolutions maybe kickstart you thinking about, what can you do to improve your, the improvement cycle within your own homeschool, within your own, homeschool world, with your children and your family and in your home. Hopefully you can, think about ways to, just nibble away and improve. It doesn't have to be big step, giant step improvements. You can just take those little itty bitty steps and see if you can improve your day, which helps to improve your children's day, which helps to improve your family's experience, especially around homeschooling. I think it's the most important. And so that's what we're doing. So hopefully you guys can find a little bit of inspiration on your end, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time.
Happy homeschooling!